Hey everybody! I've had some requests to do hummingbirds as well as sunsets, so I'm going to do a sunset hummingbird today. I'm going to paint an oval of white paint onto a rock. My rock is oval shaped kind of, so I'm just going to stick with that shape, but I'm not going to cover the whole rock in white. I want a nice oval shape on the rock. Because what we're going to do is we're going to frame in that oval shape that we painted on. So once you've painted 2 coats, you make sure that that's really nice and dry before you get started on the sunset. These are the colors I'm going to pick today. You can pick whatever colors you want if you want to do a more realistic sunset, or if you just want to be creative, pick whatever colors your heart desires. You're going to need a blending brush, so a brush that's bushy at the end or bristly, one that you feel comfortable blending with. I find my older brushes work really well for that. I'm just going to dab on color wherever I want in this white space that we've created for ourselves. And I'm starting with, it's called a drift. It's like a light teal, very beachy. So I thought I'd start off with that color. I'm also using satin finished acrylic paints as well as matte finish. It doesn't matter what finish of paint you're using as long as it's acrylic, because in the end we're going to put a gloss coat of Mod Podge over top of it anyway. So it's going to be shiny no matter what. Now it's always easier if you've seen any of my other tutorials to make sure that you're blending while the paint is still wet. They don't blend together once it's dry, so definitely work quickly while your paint is still wet. I'm adding different shades of blue, green. I'm going to add some yellow, orange, magenta, and of course purple will be in there because that's one of my favorites. And just dab that color on wherever your heart desires. And if you want to put clouds in, once you're done with the sky color, you can brush on a couple of little white clouds. Or if you do like a darker sky, more of a night sky, you can put some stars in there. But just keep in mind that we're doing a silhouette of a hummingbird. So the hummingbird silhouette is going to be done in black. You don't want your sky to be too dark or you won't be able to see your hummingbird. So I'm adding in some yellow and orange. I'm using different brands of paint, folk art, apple barrel, different kinds. It doesn't really matter. Deco art, whatever paints you have and whatever colors you love. That's all you get to use today. That's where your creativity comes in. And even if it looks kind of messy and you're not really happy with it, once we put our silhouette on, it's going to look beautiful, I promise. Now you can look up silhouette pictures or silhouette tattoos on Pinterest or Google Images. And find, if you're not able to draw one, you can find images of them and you can try and work off of those. Practice a couple of times before you take the pencil to your rock. That's what I always do. I always practice on some paper first just to make sure I've got what I want. And then I draw it onto the rock itself. Always with pencil because you can always go back and fix it after. I'm adding some bright magenta in there. I'm from Northern Ontario and we have lots of snow and it's going to be a while before we see flowers and green grass. So I wanted to brighten up my day a little bit today and do some bright colors on this sunset. You can even be more creative and add a little sun in there in the background somewhere, more likely in with the yellows and oranges. You could put like a little circle of yellow in there and it would look like a sun. You don't have to do that. Just be creative. I'm just trying to throw some ideas out there for anyone who doesn't want to copy my idea. Or if this one's just simply boring. I want to thank all my new subscribers as well. It's amazing how many of you are following me already and excited about my tutorials and getting out there and painting again after maybe being in a bit of a slump. I hope I can get your creative juices flowing because mine are constantly flowing, and I'm so glad I'm able to share it with you. I'm adding some dark indigo in at the bottom there. It's still not going to be so dark that we can't see the silhouette though, so keep that in mind. There we go. Looks kind of like a strange planet. Definitely haven't seen a sky that color, although I do get to see northern lights up here, and oh, they're beautiful, but not like this rock. Now, once you're finished that, let it dry, make sure you're happy with it, and take some black acrylic paint and line your oval. I'm going to put a nice thick outline of black, and I'll show you why afterwards. But basically, we're putting a frame around our sunset right now, and we're going to let that dry so that we can work with it without it smudging anywhere. I still want to show off my natural rock, but I want to frame in our sunset. Awesome. So now once it's dry, we're going to take the picture of a hummingbird, and I'm just going to draw one up here quickly, sketch one out on a piece of paper, just so I can kind of get my idea out, but not quite onto the rock yet. And like I said, you can use Pinterest or Google Images and try and get your idea from there. It's not safe to always copy it, but try and get your ideas from there of how you want your hummingbird to look. And once you're happy with that, sketch it on to your rock where you want it to be. And once again, with the paints that I've used and the erasers that I've used, any mistakes I make I can easily erase afterwards anyway. So I always use pencil and eraser. I'm also going to do some flowers. I'm just making these up. They're just, you know, plain, easy flowers to do. Nothing spectacular. I sketched those on paper as well, just so that I had that idea in mind. I added on to it a little bit, added a bit more flowers, so that it looks like the hummingbird's going to get some nectar from them during the sunset. Once you're happy with your design in pencil, that's when you take a fine lining brush and some black acrylic paint. And I usually cut the bristles on my brushes until they're really fine, until I'm happy with them. I go through a lot of lining brushes because they don't last me very long. So I'm constantly cutting my paint brushes in order to get the right size. So now I'm filling in the lines that I was happy with in pencil. Anything else we can erase afterwards once it's all dry. And I'm just going to fill all of it in black as if we're only seeing the black silhouette of the hummingbird going to get a drink from the flowers. And once it's dry, you might see that some of it is showing through, some of your sunsets coming through the black. Just go back over it again, but you're not going to see those imperfections until you let it dry completely. So I actually use my hair dryer on a cool setting and dry it quickly because I tend to be impatient when I'm doing my tutorials. So I use the hair dryer on a cool setting to dry it and make sure that I can see if there's anything that's been missed, and then I go back to it afterwards. I'm just filling it all in. And you can adjust it once you're done and you step back and take a look at it. You can adjust it the way you need to. It's just the only problem is you can't erase that black paint now. So make sure you're careful. Any mistakes you make with the black paint, like for instance, if I made one of those petals with a big bump off the side of it, I would have had to enlarge the petal. There's no way for me to erase the big bump off the side. So you got to make sure you have the design that you want and that you follow that design carefully with your black paint. It's really hard to go back and fix a sunset around that black paint. There we go. And I'm going to add a couple more swirls in. You can do like a little dragonfly coming down to check out what the hummingbird's doing. Whatever makes you smile. You can see my pencil marks, which I'm going to go back over and erase very soon. I'm using a dotting tool and I'm just going to add a dot at the base of the flowers just to kind of finish them off a bit better. Just adding that little dot there makes it look like it's attached to the stems. There we go. Definitely let it dry. Go back with your eraser and erase all your marks. And then with the finishing touches on the frame, I'm going to use dotting tools and this is why I used a thicker line on the outside. I'm going to use a big dotting tool. You can also use the end of your paintbrush. And I'm going to do dots all the way around in that thick line of black. This is the only place we're going to put gold on today, unfortunately. Now all this does is just gives it a nice little frame. Separates the painting from the natural stone and makes it look super fancy. And just follow your line all the way around. If you need to grab your lining brush and your black paint and adjust the line because it might be lopsided or uneven, you can do that as well right now. Just don't get it on the front of your hummingbird portrait, your hummingbird picture. It's starting to look really pretty. You don't have to use gold. You can use different colors. You can use brown if you want, so it looks like a picture frame, or wooden or what have you. I just am a big fan of gold, so you'll see a lot of gold on my stuff. Once you let that dry, you have the option of spraying it or whichever way you like to make it look glossy. Today I'm just going to make the painted part of the rock glossy. I don't want the whole thing to be glossy. So I'm going to use Mod Podge, and it's the really glossy kind. It almost looks like a glass coat over top. It does look foggy and almost like there's a milky look to it. It does dry clear, like a glass finish. And all I'm doing is painting, even over top of the gold dots, I'm making sure all of the rock that's been painted is covered in the gloss. And this stuff you can actually put a couple of coats on, and it settles nice and even without brush marks, as long as you brush it carefully and you don't leave any big thick lines of it anywhere. But I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope to see some more hummingbird sunsets out there. Have an awesome day.